Hi, welcome back to Josh Does Things. Today I'm going to be explaining to you the government shutdown, really simply using marbles. Okay, so basically, this is our money, okay? So imagine this as all your hard-earned tax dollars that you have to pay back to the federal government for, I don't know, the privilege of living here, I guess? I don't really know. But you pay taxes. That is part of America, okay? So this is all your tax money, okay? And these, I know you can't see them, it's okay though, are different little departments, okay, that your tax money goes to. So like this could be, that is so loud, the FDA. So a certain amount of your tax money goes to funding the FDA, okay? This is the military, so like the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, everyone who works on there, R&D, all of that sort of stuff. Of course I dropped it. They get marbles. Quite a lot of marbles. We like protecting ourselves. All right, so this is the CDC, okay? Now, this isn't COVID, so we're not gonna give them as much money as usual. This is NASA. They get some, and honestly, do we care about them that much? No. Military. All right, this is NASA's funding, okay? And this is, I don't know, this is like the Library of Congress. So, like, why do we care? All right, but I'm so sorry. This is so loud. Like, actually, it's such an annoying sound. Trust. Okay, so we have our little cups with all of the different, departments and all the different amounts. And these are the funds that they get, and they're supposed to use all these funds throughout the year to be able to, do their jobs and keep the American people safe and healthy until next fiscal year. Now, let me explain what happened this year. So this year, all of your representatives, all of your people that you elected to the Congress or, voted against, but, everyone who is representing you currently in the House and in the Senate, they could not agree on what to do with these marbles. Not just the leftover ones, but all of them. I'm gonna get permanent hearing loss from this. So this is currently the state of affairs, all right? It is just marbles, all your tax money, and the cups are all empty. Now the thing is, so this is called appropriations. So the tax money, right, here, the funds are appropriated into the different cups. So basically, everyone agrees, hey, I don't think the Library of Congress should get very much money. It's not like they do much. They just kind of have library. They're not like making developments that'll change the world. No, they just keep old books. Okay, obviously they have a job and we fund them, but not near as much as we fund, say, the military. Not as much as we fund, say, SNAP. Now this is where it gets kind of important. And also, ACA. Like, this is just like health related things, okay? Now, the thing that they couldn't agree on was whether or not they should continue ACA, like the Affordable Care Act. So now, okay, so this is also known as Obamacare. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is like literally, I don't really know what's happening. I'm just here. But Republicans did not like Obamacare. They did not vote for Obamacare because if I'm not wrong, Obamacare, what it did was it lowered the premiums on health insurance for poor people, but then it increased those premiums because there wasn't as much competition for people that could pay more. Does that make sense? So middle class and upper class people are paying more money so that the poor people can have better premiums. I don't really know. I'm not really sure how this works, and I'm sure that there's a better reason that fiscal conservatives are against Obamacare. Or I don't know if fiscal conservatives. I don't really know, okay? But the thing is, they could not agree on how much of these guys should go into here. So that was a big problem because basically, if they don't continue putting these, oh my gosh, that's so loud, putting these guys where they need to go, right? Well, then they can't do their thing, right? So that is the reason that the government is shut down, because although the money is all here, the money has not been agreed upon to go to the places where it needs to go. So this affects not just the people with the healthcare. This does not just affect them. This affects everyone else because they did not pass legislation allowing for everything else to be funded. So the military right here, you know they wanted all that money. They don't have it. That's why military members on like October 10th actually missed a paycheck for the first time in like literal modern history, because they couldn't give the military all the money that they needed, or any money at all, because they got so tangled up over this one little cup that they could not figure out what to do with the rest. Because of this little guy, and obviously it's important, like I completely understand that, but because of this, and because of their, you know, I guess less fortunate constituents that like depended on this, and like the argument back and forth over whether or not they should keep it, because of this little guy, and I'm not blaming like the people that are like on it, but because the two sides could not come to agree on a conclusion as to what they should do with the money for this, everyone else suffers. Now, what's really interesting, and which you're really gonna wanna take note of, is the fact that, hey, let's say this guy, okay, this is the money that's going to your representatives, okay? And you're gonna be like, well, why did they like agree to give themselves more money? Yes, they did in fact. In like the 80s or something, they passed legislation that basically meant, hey, so if representatives are chilling and they, like the government shuts down because they can't agree, they still get paid. I want you to take that in for a second. So you can say, oh, well, I blame Trump. Personally, I think that's kind of stupid because Trump is not the one in Congress even here to make these decisions, okay? Like, yeah, he has an outsized amount of influence. However, you know who I blame? I blame the people that can not come to the negotiating table, that can not pass any legislation, that can keep themselves in recess for an entire, like, almost a month now? Are we at a month yet? And still get paid for it. And no, they don't get like little teensy weensy amount of stuff, right? You want to know how much their salaries are? They range from $100,000 to $200,000 a year. But they don't have the time, they don't have the care to actually come to the negotiating table and give this money, which they're spending, which they're partying with, which they're, you know, I don't know what, not negotiating with. Like, they're not earning this right now. They're actually not doing their jobs at all. And instead of, you know, them, some for NASA, a lot for the military, some for FDA, no, they just keep it all. And until either side is like, hey, so basically our constituents are suffering because their little government coffers are all empty. But we know, until they realize that everyone underneath them does not have any funds and is not getting any of their government appropriated stuff, whether that is paychecks for military families, whether that is SNAP and food stamps for less fortunate, you know, individuals with like less income, shall we say, okay? Whether it is the NASA scientists aren't able to work and so only the essential ones are even staying. I mean, this affects every single facet of the government. I mean, flights getting canceled because we can't pay our federal aviation employees. So they're just working regular hours and they're not going to work overtime because they're not getting paid for the hours that they are actually working. So basically, let me explain this. Let me really boil this down for you. Everyone suffers except your representatives. Does that make sense? Like, are we clear here? So I do not blame one side or the other more for this, okay? And honestly, hats off to everyone who has decided to break with party lines and vote for the other side just to try and push legislation through so that the government stops being shut down. My respect goes out to you, honestly, because you're actually trying to do a good thing here, okay? And yeah, you may be a Democrat and you may break with party lines and vote with Republicans because you're just trying to keep the government open, okay? And I blame Republican leaders in the House, Republican leaders in the Senate. I also blame minority leaders, like Democrat leaders in the House and in the Senate, because clearly something is not working and they have no motivation to actually work for us, the people that voted them in, until we start complaining, okay? Now, I'm not calling you to go out and riot in the streets because that does not help anybody or anything. But write a letter, email your representative, send them some snail mail. Send them some snail mail, okay? Because nothing is going to change, all right? Because both sides think that they have the upper hand. The one side is like, oh, well, you guys look really stupid because all of our lower income people are just like, it's because of you that we won't negotiate with you because we're just trying to like work for them so that they can get the money that they need to have like low premiums. And then the other side's like, well, actually this looks a lot worse for you because you are, raising up some of your people, but you're also ignoring your military families, your aviation employee families, anybody that's, employed by the federal government is affected by this, okay? Your NASA scientists. Do we want to piss off the rocket scientists? Guys, no, we don't, okay? But your representatives, with all the money here, they don't care. And they won't care unless you go out and you step up. I mean, tomorrow's election day, so if you can vote some of these guys out of office, please do. I don't know exactly what's happening. I know it's like an off-season election. However, vote and write. Because if you don't make your voice heard, and if you don't tell them to get this where it needs to go, it's just gonna sit here, and they're just gonna enjoy themselves while we all yell at each other and suffer the consequences. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.